what was it about Francis Bacon that uh, influenced your artistic style?
Interesting question, because when you look at the work which I'm doing today and you look at a painting by Francis Bacon, you would be really next to no correlation between the two. But I find that my own process relies pretty heavily on things like randomness and things like sort of making marks and sort of seeing where the image wants to go based on the direction implied by those particular marks, or just a smudge on the paper. If I smear the charcoal in a certain way, this creates kind of a feeling, and then how do I build off of that feeling to not only make an image that has a certain amount of intensity and a certain kind of sensation, which is what I think Bacon said that he was after. It was not necessarily, well, he used the term illustrative very pejoratively in his interviews. All the art which he didn't like, he called illustration, and he described that as art which doesn't necessarily work on the level of physical sensation, but works on the intellect first. That it's art that sort of one has to view and intellectualize before one is able to see it or feel it on a more visceral kind of level. And he at least claimed, I don't really trust Bacon's words at all. The man was a pathological liar, but he claimed in his interviews that he was going for a more visceral level of sensation in his work, trying to make work that acts on the nervous system before one is able to actually sense it on a rational intellectual level. You feel it in your body before you see it with your mind, and that's what he was going for. And that's not necessarily what I'm going for in this particular work. I'm not trying to make something that gives a visceral shock before one can process it. But I do also get the sense that maybe there is some of that at work, that working in such a manner where I'm very open to chance and very open to, having the drawing not necessarily go as I'd imagined it, but go off in a different direction. And maybe it doesn't end up resembling this character at all. Maybe I have to sort of, figure out, is this, this person, or is this somebody else? Or is this just a different way of seeing this particular character? Maybe this is a different side of them, which I hadn't quite expected to see. Maybe it's sort of taking off in its own direction. And I think, working with the Baroque allows for a lot of that kind of improvisation, because there's so much very minute detail on everything. And